Okay, so there's this, like, for some context, there's this Eastern Orthodox called Georgios. And, like, even though I'm not a Christian, I like him. Like, we interacted a lot, and he's really nice. But he said something which really confused me on so many different levels.
Okay.
He made a response video where he basically says that if someone is sinless, it means there's no imperfections, which means that he has no desire to sin, which means he's basically perfect. But then I heard about, like, the Catholic understanding of Mary being sinless. My question is, if Mary doesn't have the desire to sin, does she still have free will?
I don't know what he means. If someone is perfect, he has no desire to sin. Does he mean that though the person is in the flesh, there's that sinful proclivity that
Yeah,
seeks to wage war against the person, and yet the person resists that sinful proclivity and not give into it?
yeah,
If you
because the
mean
guy was
give it to him, what?
yeah, because Georgius was making a response video about Jesus' nature
Yeah,
and, like,
I know
how
what
he
he's
is
talking
sin.
about. I know, Raphael. I understand, brother. But listen to what I'm telling you. It's not simple yes or no. I'm walking you through this. First of all, I know what he's talking about. He's talking about that Christ is impeccable, immutable, infallible. Why? Because he's one divine person. He's not a divine person who became a human person. We all agree with this. No true Christian, whether it's Syrian Church of the East, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Catholic, thinks that Christ became a human person or that he's a divine person united to a human person. So, as God, the uncreated divine person who takes flesh, he by his very nature is impeccable. He by his very nature is immutable, infallible. So, there are no proclivities in him that would cause him to struggle and wrestle with that he needs to overcome.
Yeah,
So, this is
yeah,
what I'm saying. Put that aside for now. Let's go with now human beings. Is he saying that a human being who may have a sinful proclivity, meaning there's sin in your flesh that seeks to move you to sin, but as long as you resist and overcome that sin, is he saying having that sinful proclivity means you're imperfect? Or does he mean, though we are born with a fallen nature, still by resisting that sinful proclivity, you are not sinful until you succumb to it?
mm. Well,
What does he mean?
for someone, like, to have a proclivity, or that word, like, to want to sin, you'd have a desire to sin. And, like I said, the guy said, if you
Well,
don't have
because in
any,
the Bible, no, I know what he's saying. The Bible says sin is in your flesh making war with you. That means there is an agent in you due to the fall that is active and seeks to move you to succumb and give in. So here, let me show you. I'm not giving you my own opinion. I'm giving you scriptural language. Here it is. So I need to know what he means. Now I'll come back to the Blessed Mother in a minute. But here, it's black and white. Here you go. Right here. Let's start with Galatians 5:16 and 26. All right, Galatians 5. This is here. Do walk by the Spirit, and you will not carry out the desires of the flesh. Carrying them out, practicing them is what makes you a sinner. Having this flesh that's warring within you to cause you to desire things contrary to the Spirit, as long as you resist, don't give in, it's not counted as sin. Okay, now let me give you one more example. James 1:13 to 15. Let no one say when he's tempted, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself does not tempt anyone. But each one is tempted when he's carried away and enticed by his own lust. Now watch. Then when lust has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin is fully matured, it brings forth death. So if you read the scriptures carefully, the desire that you have that makes you disordered because of the fall, those desires you must wrestle with. And as long as you resist them, don't give in to them, then you're not sinning and it's not counted as sin against you. You with me so far?
yes,
Before I go to Mary?
yes,
Okay. So you see it, right?
yeah,
You see that was the saying. We are born disordered because of the fall. So we have this flesh. By flesh, he's not talking about here. He's talking about the sinful inclination that's part of your flesh that sinful inclination is a power and agent in you that then does all it can to move you to break the law. And when you break the law, that's when you sin. Here, let me give you another example. Now I'll come to the Blessed Mother. Here you go. Romans 7:7-24. Okay. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Saying about the law of Moses? May it never be. All right. Rather, I would not have come to know sin except through the law. Meaning, the law reveals what sin is. It tells me what sin is. God's law. You do this, that's good. You don't do it, that's sin. Don't do this, because if you do that, that's sin. Well, where does that come from? The law. For I would not have known about coveting if the law had not said, you shall not covet. But sin, look, taking opportunity through the commandment, worked out in me coveting of every kind. You see, now he's talking about sin as an agent, as a power, as an influence, right?
Like, you mean when the thought of sin is actualized?
Even that thought that you have, that's because sin is in you. It's causing you to think about things contrary to the law. Do you see? It says sin took the opportunity. So he's talking about sin as an actual agent that now is wanting to put in your heart the desire to go against the law. You understand what he's saying here?
Yeah.
You with me there? Okay, now watch what Paul says. For apart from the law, sin is dead. What does he mean? The sin that's in you, that's part of your fallen, corrupt nature, because your nature is disordered, it's there, but it's asleep. When does it come to life? Now, I was once alive apart from the law. But when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. See here, Paul is saying, when I became aware of God's commandment. You listening, everyone? Don't distract each other in the comment section. When Paul became aware of God's commandment, sin woke up. Sin that was dead, being asleep, woke up. Why? Because now sin, as an agent, almost as if it has its mind of its own, is aware that now I am aware of God's law, and now it's going to work against me to make me desire to break it. You with me there?
Yes.
So when do I then sin? When I break the law here. And this commandment, which was to lead to life, was found to lead to death for me. For sin, taking opportunity through the commandment, deceived me, and through it killed me. How? Because it put these thoughts, what we call intrusive thoughts and desires in me, and it kept trying to put these desires in me until I gave in. It's when I gave in and I broke the command, that's when I died and I sinned. So the law is holy. Sorry, man, these cat hairs, damn. And the commandment is holy and righteous and good. Therefore, did that which is good become a cause of death for me? So the law is good, but I end up breaking it, and because I broke it, I die. So did the law cause me to die? May it never be. It's not the law. Rather, it was sin, in order that it might be shown to be sin, by working out my death through that which is good, so that through the commandment, sin would become utterly sinful. Meaning, it's not the law that killed me. It's the sin in me that moved me and wouldn't leave me alone until I broke the law. And when you break the law and you actually sin, that's when you die. For we know that the law is spiritual. I'm going to come back to your question, but I got to set it up. But I'm fleshly, having been sold into bondage under sin. See, sin is an agent that the more you give into it, the more powerless you become, and the more powerful it becomes over you. For what I am working out, I do not understand. So here's the key. I am not practicing. See, it's the doing what I would like to do, but I am doing. So when do you actually sin and die?
When you actualize like the thing
Yeah,
in reality.
you got it right there. The doing. I'm doing the thing I hate. But if I do the very thing I do not want, I agree with the law, that is good. Meaning, when I don't want to go against the law, I'm acknowledging the law is good and I want to do it, but I keep failing to do it. So now, no longer am I the one working it out. See, notice it's about doing. But sin which dwells in me. For I know that nothing good dwells in me, that is in my flesh. For the willing is present in me. See, the desire is there that I want to obey the law, but the working out of the good is not. but the ability to act upon it, because sin is too strong, and the more I give into it, the more I become weak. For the good that I want, I do not do. See, it's about doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but I practice the very evil that I do not want. See, it's about practicing, doing. But if I'm doing the very thing I do not want, I'm no longer the one working it out. See, it's all about doing, acting upon those. So if you resist those desires, you're not in sin. God will give you compassion and mercy. It's when you act on those desires, you sin. I find then the principle that in me, evil is present. In me, who wants to do good. See, notice it's all about doing. Guys, you see the difference between the desires you wrestle with and the doing? For I joyfully concur with the law of God in your man, meaning my inner person, my spirit, my heart, my soul. I delight in God's law. But I see a different law in my members, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a captive of the law of sin, which is in my members. Wretched man that I am, who will deliver me from the body of this death? Well, Jesus Christ will. Okay, so now you understand the difference between those sinful proclivities, those intrusive thoughts, sin as a force and agent that keeps wanting you to act out against God's law, and you actually acting it out.
Yes. And
Okay.
like following with that, because from my understanding, because like I'm thinking from my current knowledge, I'm not very knowledgeable. What I
Yes.
like heard from Saint Albert, like the guy who made the ontological argument, like are you aware of him?
That doesn't really
Like,
concern me about
y-
exegesis of the text. So what about
yeah,
it?
but like related to this, the guy said that things can exist in two ways, in the mind or in the mind and in reality. Would you
Yes.
like, is it appropriate to say from the Christian standpoint that Mary like had sin existing in the
No, I'm
mind
gonna
but
get
not
there.
in reality?
I'm gonna get there in a minute, brother. Stuck for all. Take it easy. You're jumping the gun. Take it easy, man. Take it easy, man. You take it easy. All right. You with me so far?
Yes.
So if he means by sin, meaning by perfection, not wrestling with sin, well, in one way, that's because our bodies are fallen and tainted. See, I got to go deeper, because perfection, does he mean that I'm not disordered? I'm not fallen and tainted by sin? No, I am. So, in that sense, after the fall, no one is perfect. But does it mean that because there are sinful thoughts, intrusive thoughts that I wrestle with, and therefore I am now a sinner because I'm wrestling with them? No, I'm not a sinner until I act upon them. You see the difference? I'm trying to work you through. I'm going to get to Mary, but okay. So after the fall, everything is disordered and tainted, imperfect, corrupted. That's just because of the fall. Now, in light of that, what I'm trying to get at, because I am tainted, corrupted, and I have this sin agent that is part of my members that wages war against my mind, putting these thoughts in me to want to break God's law. These intrusive thoughts and desires, does that make me a sinner? No, I'm not a sinner until I act upon them. As long as I'm wrestling with those inner demons and those thoughts, God sees my struggle, and I'm not going to be condemned for a thought that enters my mind and I am resisting and fighting it. So let's get that out of the way. Now, when it comes to the Holy Mother, the belief is this. Now, I can't speak for Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox. I can't speak for them. And the Catholics here will correct me if I'm mistaken, because again, I'm learning, relearning, unlearning. The
Yeah,
belief is this. What?
and can I like elaborate a bit on like the future answer?
I
Because
don't know if it's my. How do you know what my future answer is?
well, the thing is, I did ask this to Christian apologists. If I'm honest, the answers weren't really satisfactory for me.
But Rafari,
One of yes,
brother, listen to me. You're not the standard of what is satisfaction. If you accept or not, I don't care.
I know, but
But
obviously
what?
for me to like accept a religion, I need
No, it
to
doesn't
have
matter.
understanding.
The more answers you are given, and the more hardened you become, you're going to burn in hell even more severely. So you're not the standard. So if you reject
Obviously,
Christianity, that's between you and God. Don't become a narcissist, brother.
I'm
My
not. I'm
answers
just
are
saying.
not tailored. Well, let me finish, young man. Before you want me to send you Mecca, I can. My answers are not tailored for your approval. Whether you accept or not, you're not important. I'm not important. Truth is important. Whether you accept the truth or not, that's between you and God. So when you say, well, for me, well, you're not the standard. Humble yourself because you're not that important. I just want you to know you're a maggot, I'm a maggot. So whether you like the answer or not, sucks being you. The truth is the truth. It doesn't care for your feelings. So stop making yourself the standard. My commitment is to speak the truth for the glory of Christ. You accept it to your salvation. You reject it to your destruction.
Okay. So what I wanted to say was that one of the Christian apologists made like the argument that, for example, Adam and Eve wasn't sinful at first, but they were
They were
still
what?
like capable of sin.
Yeah.
So one of the Christian apologists said
Yeah,
that,
I know.
for example,
Adam,
Adam and Eve. Yeah, but the
yeah.
thing is, which I didn't understand, was I got a gift from my uncle. It was the book of Saint Augustine, the book Confessions, and basically in the first book he makes the argument that babies like inwardly are sinful, but they like don't actualize the sin because they aren't capable of sinning. Adam and
Okay,
Eve
so
were capable of sinning, but if like from the Christian standpoint, Mary was born without sin. If she lived her entire life without a single sin, then how is she capable if she doesn't have the desires? That's basically my
where did
question.
Augustine include Mary in that analogy? You've
Hmm?
confused so many issues that I can't answer you because I haven't finished the answer. You went to Augustine. What Augustine said to be a general truth doesn't mean it applies in every specific case, because obviously to him, Jesus would be the exception, though he's truly human. So when he speaks in generalities, that doesn't mean it applies in every particular instance or individual. So can you stop butchering Augustine?
I'm not
So let's, you
butchering.
want to talk about Mary or do you want to talk about Augustine and you're talking about Adam and Eve? Because you just brought up 5 different issues.
Okay,
Which one do you want to talk about?
let's start with Mary.
Okay. So when you tell me Augustine said something about humanity as a general rule, infants have sin in them. This is what I just said. I was quoting Paul. What he meant was, because we're born in a fallen world, we're disordered, we receive from our parents this sinful bent, but they're not capable of sinning. That's because I just quoted Romans 7. That's what Augustine was saying. You understand? And his point about Adam and Eve is God, when he created them, he didn't create them with a sinful bent as part of their DNA, because then that means God is the author of sin. Do you understand the
So,
difference now?
okay, so
So do
from
you
your
believe God created Adam and Eve with the
do,
sinful proclivity as part of their physical makeup? Then God is
do
the author of sin.
I believe if God created Adam and Eve with desire to sin, sure, yes.
No, well, then that means you're worshiping Allah of the Quran, not the God of the Bible. There's a difference between saying God created a desire to sin with God creating them with the ability to choose contrarily, as opposed to saying he put desire in them to sin, because that means you're saying he created them with that sinful bent from the get-go. But
Yeah,
I'm not
but
a Muslim. I don't believe in Surah 91, verse 8, that Allah blew into human being their evil and their goodness. So I'm not a Muslim. So let's
well,
talk about Mary.
yeah, by following that, wouldn't you agree that the desire to sin is necessary for free will? Because what would
I don't know
then
what you mean by
differentiate us?
desire. Do you mean having the ability to choose contrarily? And you're saying that's a desire to sin? If that's how you define it, that you have an ability to choose, as opposed to saying desire to sin, meaning that you already have sin in you, and this sin is arousing these passions that are contrary to God. I don't believe God created them with those desires.
I'm not like thinking about the ability because we have the ability to do stuff like, but it's not really in the hands of free will.
Okay,
You
so
understand what I'm?
how are you defining desire? I don't believe that God created Adam with this sinful proclivity to desire things that are evil in the sight of God. I believe he was created with the ability to disobey God, and then by disobeying God, he then corrupts his nature. Because here, just to help you understand what I'm getting at, Genesis 4, 6 to 7. Here you go. Again, to understand my point. Then Yahweh said to Cain, why are you angry? And why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will not your countenance be lifted up? And if you do not do well, sin is lying at the door. See, sin is a demon. It's at the door to control you. And its desires for you. It's when you then give into it, it will control you. But you must rule over it. So I don't know how you're defining your terms. Obviously, we're not defining it the same way. I do not believe, this is just me, that when God created Adam and Eve, he put in them this sinful proclivity, a bent to desire something evil and contrary to God. Because whatever God created was pure and very good. That's why here he says to Cain, sin is something external seeking to control you. It's at the door. It's trying to control you. All right, now that's just an example of Cain. Now he's already disordered. He's already fallen. So it doesn't help that he's already messed up. I don't believe that of Adam and Eve. But do you want me to address Mary now?
Yeah, and before you address Mary, what I'm trying to say with ability and desire to sin is, for example, a robot could have the ability to like hit someone in the face, but it's not programmed to do so. So it isn't really, it doesn't have the desire. Like, not that robots have desires, but you
I
get what
don't know
I'm
if
like.
we're using the same understanding. Yes. So can God create human beings with the capacity to act contrary to God's will? Yes, he can do that. That's what he did.
Okay, and would you say that there's like potentiality in the person himself
Yes.
to
Now, if
want
you
to
say
sin?
potential, yes. Why? There's a potential that when you want to act contrary to God's will, then you're going to birth sin in you. But the sin is not in you. The potential to act contrary to God is what will then give birth and rise to sin. Why do I say that? Because right here. Yeah, we're getting too metaphysical here. But anyway, here, let me show you what you mean. Why did Eve end up sinning? Because of the potentiality to act contrary to God. And then that potentiality birth this sinful desire to break God's command. And it says it right here. And the serpent said to him, you surely will not die. For God knows that in the day you eat from it, your eyes will be open and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. And then the woman saw that the tree was good for food and that it was a delight to the eyes and the tree was desirable. So the potentiality she was given, that potentiality to disobey God is what's now going to give rise and birth to that sinful proclivity.
So you believe that there's potentiality in someone
Of course, there's
to sin?
potentiality. Otherwise, they would be robotons.
Yeah, exactly. That's also my thought process. That's why I
Okay,
think
that's good.
it
We're
is
using different
necessary.
terminology.
Hmm?
We're saying the same thing. We're using different terminology. All right. If we are in the same program, okay. So if you mean by that God created humans and even spirit beings with the potentiality to act contrary to God, and then acting upon that ability is what then births that sin in them, then okay, we're on the same page.